our top 2022 predictions. We'll go into the financial, political, and spiritual realm. Justin, let's kick it off.
Gotcha. So the two big predictions I have are pretty high level, but the first one is going to, I think, deal around with the fact that trust in systems that people otherwise have no reason to doubt will fail. And I think that will then lead people to demand whatever they can get their hands on that will restore trust and restore confidence. So in the big picture, those are my two predictions for 2022.
All right, we need to dig deeper into those. So what do you mean by this loss of confidence in these quote unquote riskless assets that people believe they are?
Gotcha. So my thinking is that what gets people into trouble, there are two things. One we already know, which is kind of what you don't know. The second one that gets you into trouble is what you do know that just ain't so. And so if you can see at the bottom of the screen here, I wrote that trust in collateral failures across multiple aspects of society, I think are what's going to color 2022, or at least will start coloring 2022. So if you want an example from these various sectors, I've got a few laid out here. But if you take the market, for example, again, very high level, my thinking is that people will not necessarily know who owes what to who and who actually owns what. An example of this might be, let's say, Robinhood, another discount broker. You might look at your Robinhood account and say, okay, I've got the following equities in my account, but do you really have those equities? Has Robinhood actually gone out and bought those equities on your behalf? Or are they just simply giving you an IOU, whatever the equity is, assuming that, you being retail are just going to screw it up or whatever, right? In other words, your loss will be Robinhood's gain if Robinhood is writing you IOU. So basically you're short whatever your positions are. So that would be an example from the market thing, where you basically have people who think they own the real equities of whatever, they're trading, but in reality, they do not. That'd be the first thing.
I think what you mean by that is, so everyone knows if you're doing that, our banking system is just brought up on confidence, and it's basically just a confidence of the collateral that other people have. We saw the first breakdown of collateral in, you would probably argue LTM, I would probably argue 2008 with mortgage-backed securities. But what if we see that same type of people go into the repo market with these pristine collateral, which was thought to be mortgage-backed securities, but then everyone collectively agrees we don't want those anymore? What if that same thing happens with T-bills? What would our financial system look like if T-bills were no longer looked at as pristine collateral and would not be accepted? I honestly, I don't want to envision, or I think this is where you're saying, where, because since these T-bills are being rehypothecated, people want the actual T-bill instead of the what T-bill.
Yeah, I think what you probably see happen in that situation is what you'd see, people would demand, I want to say people, banks, for example, would say, like, listen, we don't trust other banks just for whatever other reason. Perhaps into the 2008 context, we think that other banks are sitting on these toxic mortgage-backed securities assets, for example. So like, no, we are not going to give overnight liquidity. That is, we're not going to buy to give a short-term loan, just immediately buy it back, whatever, right? Just a side note, even though it's like the scope of this video, I will note that there was that story that broke, 3 or 4 days ago, where basically in 2019, late 2019, and this is way before the Rona or any of that nonsense came about, the Federal Reserve was having to give like $4 trillion. Did you see that? Or anyways, it was just insane what they were having to do for that. But that is provide collateral through repo transactions to Citi, Bank of America, Chase, and I think there was one other that escapes my mind. But the point is that like it's a liquidity issue. But again, separate video. But again, you see this theme coming up where people demand the underlying thing. And to your point about Treasury bills, what you might have is that people just demand more of it. People say, listen, I don't want your equities as security. I don't want your whatever as security. Maybe gold, maybe they'll take gold, maybe they won't, but certainly the treasuries would probably still be very much in the thing. So I've got another example, same thing from crypto world, and basically I think that what you're going to see happen in crypto land, and I know she's got some stuff to say about this too, but from my perspective, staying high up, I think that what you would see happen in crypto world is that if Tether breaks the buck, so if for whatever other reason confidence in Tether blows up, and I know this has been an ongoing theme and an ongoing meme, but just as a hypothetical example, if something happens with Tether where you have people's confidence in Tether that suddenly eroded, people suddenly trade out of Tether, that I think is going to be very deflationary for asset prices, because it's going to stop, or it's going to really tamper the velocity of what currently trades in crypto land, because Tether sort of is the pair for many of these other trading pairs. or it's half of that you have these trading pairs. Granted, Tether can be replaced. I'm not saying Tether can't be replaced, but I'm saying until it is replaced, it won't be replaced. And I think that's going to be a major deflationary pressure in crypto land. But that is to say, if Tether goes down, then let's say it takes down the price of Bitcoin, and if Bitcoin goes down, it's going to take, or that is if it falls in price, it will take down, or all the other cryptos will follow in Bitcoin's path. Because if you look at a correlation graph between the price of Bitcoin and all the alts, it's pretty strongly correlated. So that may be an example. But again, it's the same theme where you have something that is believed to be stable, literally a stable coin, Tether, suddenly proving to be non-stable.
Mm-hmm.
That might be an example of that from crypto land. If you want a political example, you could say that the systems that are believed to be secure will be shown to be compromised, whether it's the election system or a hard to audit in real time election system might be one. Perhaps another one might be something that keeps politicians honest. So I would point out Nancy Pelosi's phenomenal investment track record. I don't even know what she's doing in politics. She should have just gone into the market, considering what a phenomenal run she's had. What a phenomenal run she's had. My hat is off to her. That is one smart lady.
Yeah.
One smart lady. If we could only all be as lucky. But that might be an example of that, where you see the political trust, failing. And then I've got a medical example too, where you have, the various companies and regulators who are designed to, protect the public's interest, failing to do so. Whether you say they were willingly complicit or not in their failure, we'll see where that goes. But the point is that if people say, here, take this, it's safe and effective, and then suddenly it turns out that it's not safe and effective, you've got a problem, because number one, you've taken something that's not safe and effective. But more importantly, and this is the key, you trusted someone who said it was safe and effective that then proved to not be safe and effective. What else have you trusted with this individual or these systems or these governments that have also, or that will also prove to be inaccurate? That's the existential crisis, where it's problematic. Anyways, just to put a bow in it, the key point is that people will come to see systems, things, or whatever that they thought were trustworthy prove to be anything but. And as soon as that happens, the example I use is, imagine being on the Titanic. The one thing you know in life is that the ship can't sink, because if the ship sinks, you're dead, because you'll be floating in the ice cold Atlantic Ocean. And luckily, you don't worry about sinking, because you were told the ship can never sink. So you feel very, very confident. But the instant you have to think the thought, oh my God, the ship is actually going to sink, then you're suddenly thrown into chaos. What you thought was safety, what you thought you had, for whether it's maybe your stocks in your retirement account, to give you a comfortable retirement or whatever, all of a sudden this is thrown up into chaos. And you think to yourself, well, wait a minute, I was certain about this, and this was a huge part of my own internal mental collateral that I based my own worldview on. And if this collateral is bad, that I thought couldn't go bad, what other mental collateral do I have, or what else do I think is the truth that will prove not to be the truth? It's very, very, very unsettling.
If you realize that your whole world view is just wrong, that is a tough pill to swallow. And I agree with everything that you just said, that these will eventually happen. I'm not sure if they will happen in 2022. I think you could be off a few years with the timing, as things happen extremely, extremely slow and then all at once. So we might be waiting a few years on those. Let's go into some more.
Yeah,
I'll do some deep, realistic financial predictions. Justin, on that Tether and crypto note, I think the biggest loser this year will be the crypto space, as all we've seen is how great crypto is. And I agree, crypto is the future, but nothing ever goes straight up. All I see with my job, I am doing research all day and scrolling through the internet. All I see is how great Bitcoin is and how it is the most perfect form of money. And yes, it may be perfect, but as George Gammon always says, we live in an imperfect world with imperfect creatures. So I think, and it's just a bubble. No matter how you put it, if you disagree saying that crypto is a bubble, then I would say you have to disagree that the 2008 housing bubble was a bubble, that the 1999 stock market bubble was a bubble, that the Japan 1989 stock market bubble was a bubble. I would say you have to disagree with every single form of hype and mania in the world, that in human history, to disagree that the crypto space is not a bubble.
Yep. And Josh, if I could just add one other thing too, people very much can clearly understand that how the Fed, over, let's say, in the response to the medical situation we've had, or back up, if if a result of the medical situation we had is that consumer households have a bunch of have a bunch more cash in their checking account, that cash is going to be dumped into the market. The point is that when you have, let's say, various government relief programs coming in, effectively printing money that is giving you and I spendable currency units, it's being put into the market and it's inflating financial asset prices. Everyone can clearly understand that, including the crypto bros. My comment is this: if the crypto bros can see that, surely they should be able to see the same relation to Tether. Because if Tether is just running the Tether printer, like, going burr and whatnot, where are those tethers going? And if those tethers are going into inflating the price of Bitcoin and other asset prices within crypto land, that's great on the way up. But it also means that if the printer stops or whatever happens to go back down, it's going to go back down with a vengeance. So my point is that this is something that crypto guys can see very clearly and accurately and justifiably so call out in fiat land. But there's still the same snake in the crypto garden.
And they always make the exact same arguments against fiat for Bitcoin. Like, oh, what's the dollar backed by? Yeah, what the confidence? What is the Bitcoin backed by? Confidence. Everything, every monetary source is backed by the confidence that runs with it. Yep. So I would say the biggest loser this year will be the crypto space, unless we see, let's say, a 2020 style market crash and then we see massive amounts of stimulus. I would say crypto would probably be the first thing to run. But if not, I would just say easy call. I would say the crypto space will be the biggest losers. The biggest winners, I think, will be, and this is going to probably be the hardest call to make, but it's just I would say either in the shipping space or in the silver and gold, as they have been pretty much the only things that have just been absolutely beat down. So that is extremely a biased view. So
they just have to keep beating him down for a little bit longer. I'm closing some other deals, and so I just need Jamie Dimon to keep smashing the price down. Keep it up. Keep up the good work.
So those are very skewed views, as I am long all of those sectors, but that is my call. I would say one other thing that I really see is political tension and the hatred towards people will continue to rise. I think food shortages will probably occur. I will give an anecdotal story.
Food shortages. When you say food shortages in America, if food shortages in America, Pan-America, or particular regions, states, cities, etc. Like zeroing on that.
Countrywide, except for localized farm areas where they actually make their own food. Just as an anecdotal story, I'm currently residing in Arizona, and I went to the grocery store for the first time in a few months, which I'm not proud of yesterday, but I walk in and the shelves are just, everything's gone. I try and get some nice fresh fruit. There's no strawberries, bananas, any vegetables. There's no fresh meat. There's absolutely nothing in the store. Well, that's obviously exaggeration, but I'd say 30% of the shelves are just completely gone. And I think that's going to continue to escalate and get worse over the next year, which will probably build tension around more people and get them angrier and angrier with hatred. I also think the divide of people will increase in 2022. Justin, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that the polarization is going to increase until we get to the crisis moment. Yeah. And when we get to the crisis moment, that's when we will have a society our come to Jesus moment where we will either rally as a culture, as a country, or whatever, right? And push back, or we will just allow ourselves, be thrown into the abyss. I hope it's the former, not the latter.
Me as well. So these are just kind of throw ball ideas. How about we check back next year and see how we did, Justin?
Yeah. So one other prediction that I will make, and so I mean, Josh, you did a much better job of zeroing in on things because I kept it pretty nebulous. And as you actually called out, people have been saying doom and gloom for the past 20 years. So anyways, yes, very fair criticism. But I do think that at least for January and February, I'm really curious to see how certain equity performs, particularly if it's a echo of what happened last year in 21. So I don't know how that's going to play out.
He's talking about GME. That is what he's talking about.
Yeah, GME. So I'm particularly curious about that. I mean, again, going into the details of that is outside the scope of the video, but it kind of gets back to that first point that I made in terms of the market, where the various plumbing systems of the market that allow for bona fide market making will eventually come due, which means that if people are naked short through various schemes, mechanisms, or whatever, the short can only be open for so long before it has to be closed. And when it gets closed, especially when multiple cycles converge at the same time, it closes violently. or with violent potential for the upside. So we'll see what happens with that front. But that's more of a personal interest story rather than like a big picture philosophical thing.
Yeah, so we shall see what happens this year. I hope the best for everyone, and we shall see you guys next time.